However, seeing how well the second couple was done only makes me more frustrated about the first. Hi! Welcome back to my channel! Today, we'll be discussing Subscribers Only by Just. And if you haven't already, go ahead and click subscribe and get your BL Library card for the BL Library. Before we get started, there will be spoilers, so if you don't want me spoiling this manhwa, go ahead and click off now. No worries, I'll catch you next time. For those of you who decide to stick around, let's go over some content warnings and buckle in. This is a long one. There may be references to gossiping, overwork, sex work, power imbalance, invasion of privacy, BDSM, forced included, slut shaming, prejudice, sexual assault, drugging, assault, blood, attempted forced porn, attempted gang rape, dubcon, excessive drinking, obsession, blackmail, violence, PTSD, being orphaned, insomnia, mentions of infertility, strained familial relationships, homomesia, self-hatred, age gap, ecotourism, mentions of cheating, not between the main couples, financial abuse, manipulation, death, mentions of sham marriage, not between the main couple, and car accidents, as these things do appear in the manhwa. But if that's okay with you, let's go and get started. Just a note, this is split between two couples and two stories. For the first couple, seasons 1 and 2, Han-seok Choi is a workaholic. He spends every waking and even sleeping moment in the office, leaving him no time for his personal life. His friend and coworker is determined to help Han-seok relax a bit, so he shows him an anonymous online account that posts solo porn. The man is exactly Han-seok's type, and soon, when he isn't working, Han-seok finds himself checking up on the man known as Mil_T, but his attention is soon diverted elsewhere once more when a new hire, Do-yoon, starts at work, and by happenstance, Han-seok catches sight of a tattoo that Mil_T also has. Next up is the second couple, seasons 3 and 4. Chaek-young-shin is known as Valenti online, a popular cammer. While playing on camera, Valenti often listens to someone he calls Threesome, though whose actual name is Story Awesome. Story Awesome's voice sends Chaek-young right into bliss, and many times he hunts for partners solely based on how closely they can mimic his voice. But when he's not having fun on camera, he's renowned interior designer Chaek-young-shin, and for a time he plans on teaching a class at his old college. While in the middle of class, he sees a beefcake. This man is exactly Chaek-young's type, named Woojin, and judging by the books hanging out of his bag, he's a big fan of Chaek-young's work. He'd love to leverage that and get the burly student into his bed, but he realizes this fan behavior is a two-way street when he hears him speak. Woojin is a fan of Chaek-young, but Chaek-young is also a fan of Woojin, who is none other than Story Awesome himself. To start with, this is really two very loosely connected stories. The art changes drastically from beginning to end, which makes the second far superior to the first in terms of art quality. It's truly night and day. Granted, both maintain the sketchiness of the first, but the second is much more refined and consistent. Admittedly, I'm not a fan of the first two seasons, aka the first story. To keep on theme with the current topic, let's stick with the art for now. I despise the top's, Han-seok's, design. Saying his chin is prominent would be an understatement. He could cut someone with that thing, and the bottom Do-yoon isn't much better with how inconsistent he is. They're just not very nice to look at, which is unfortunate. Our second couple, however, is a different story. They both have the hyper-masculine designs we see in the first couple, but are much more refined and consistent. Woojin is the definition of an Adonis, and I wish to be squashed beneath his massive pecs and shoulders. But maybe even better than Woojin, our top is our bottom, Chaek-young. While Do-yoon from the first couple falls into the standard smaller and softer bottom trope, Chaek-young is just as built and masculine as Woojin, albeit smaller, but still. I don't know that I've read anything with such equally manly men since Love Me Doctor, which is just as much a shame as it is a win. It's a shame that there aren't more of these pairs out there in mainstream BL, but it's a win that this exists to represent. Beyond their beefy designs though, the artist's talent comes out in full force for their story, with some of the prettiest panels in all of BL. Again, the difference in art quality is truly night and day, and the second couple definitely wins on both the design and quality front. Now to get into the story. I actually started reading this years ago when I first started my blog, and when I went to reread it for the post and this video, I completely forgot the first story and only remembered the second. I thought I was reading the wrong title until I checked the second story, which is when I realized that my brain had just thrown away the first, and upon a reread, I could see why. The first story was apparently only meant to be one season, per the author's note, and I think you can feel that. Han-seok is unnecessarily a judgmental asshole despite going along with everything that he judges Do-yoon for, and his his cruelty happens over and over again with stupid misunderstandings and petty fights. Plus, a secondary love interest comes in for the quickest second ever and just gives up, never to be seen again. He had little to no purpose, and I wish he hadn't been introduced. Then Do-yoon just accepts Han-seok's confession as if nothing had ever happened. If this had been a single season and ended that way, this would have been an instant hate. Thankfully, we were given a second season where we get more lovey-dovey content and more background, and we get to see the art settle into the beauty we get for the second couple. But it all comes just too late after the main story. I was over it after the first season and really didn't care much about the second, though admittedly, Do-yoon as a sexual dynamo is everything. I think the smut's worth seeing, but little else. But then we get to the second couple, and they take many of the elements that failed in the first and knock them out of the park. The secondary love interest, a well-developed character that I actually cared about and who played a meaningful role in the story. Chae-kyung is an ass, but reasonably so, without the prudish, contradictory way of doing things that Han-seok had. The romance grows gradually with many bumps and bruises along the way, and as such, feels much more realistic and satisfying by the end. It's just so much easier to believe in Chae-kyung and Woo-jin together as a couple because they worked for it alongside all of the smut and their character development. I understand the creator was only guaranteed one season for the first couple, which explains why everything was so rough around the edges. However, seeing how well the second couple was done only makes me more frustrated about the first. Plus, we get group sex and a switch character thanks to Chae-kyung, who tops another character while bottoming for Woo-jin. They're just everything my degenerate and storytelling heart could want, and more. With all that being said, as a whole package, this is pretty mid. If we split it based on the separate stories, I'd ignore the first. However, I highly recommend the second. The second story takes everything the first did and does it so much better. The characters are better, the dynamics are better, the story is better, and the art is better. Honestly, if the second couple was a story on its own, it might be favorite material. Overall though, this is fine. I hope this creator comes out with more work that gets licensed because I have a feeling it would be amazing. So, have you read Subscribers Only? If so, what do you think? Do you agree with my assessment? Do not. Let me know in comment below. Otherwise, I'll catch you next time. Bye!